Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Alien versus Predator Galaxy podcast. I am your usual co host, Adam Zeller, or as I'm known on our forums as RidgeTop, joined by your administrator, your overlord,
Aaron Percival, aka Corporal Hicks.
And today we have yet another Alien Romulus interview for you. We just dropped our Fede Alvarez interview with the director of Alien Romulus, and that was a great conversation, and we really appreciate the feedback we've been getting on that one. But we have more interviews for Romulus planned. So here is our next one with the man inside the Xenomorph suit himself, creature actor Trevor Newlin. How did you think this one went, Aaron?
I really enjoyed this one, actually. I just beasted through this today, the edit. And I don't often get through them in a well, no, it's 2 days. I did it over 2 days. I don't normally get through them that fast, but I really enjoyed actually listening to Trevor talk and tell us about his time working on the film. Really enjoyed this one. Hopefully everybody else will.
Yeah, he was really fun to talk to, and some of those stories from him and other suit performers we've talked to are always super interesting. So we hope you enjoy them, and we'll see you on the other side.
So, Trevor, thank you for joining us to geek out about your experience on Alien Romulus. Although, before we start talking Inner Jaws and Acid Blood, could you tell our audience a little bit about yourself? When did you decide you wanted to be an actor, and how did you end up in creature performance specifically?
Yeah, so I'll give you the quick rundown. I started in theater, came from Texas originally, moved from Texas to Los Angeles to pursue film and voiceover. And then I got to do background on The Mandalorian Season 2 of Star Wars in a Wookiee suit. That's where I met Legacy Effects.
Nice.
And they got my information. 3 years later, I get a phone call basically that says, hey, we have this commercial shooting tomorrow. It ended up being a national commercial for Amazon. It was a Yeti. And that was my first suit performance besides the Wookiee, but with, animatronics and all the servos and everything and all that fun stuff. And then from there, that led to Alien. So went from theater to wanting to do voiceover to getting into the prosthetic world with little commercials here and there to meeting Legacy Effects to suit performance now. And that's what I mainly do mostly is suit performance.
Seems like a bit of a journey.
It was. Yeah. I mean, I wanted to be, when I was younger, I wanted to be a paleontologist because I loved dinosaurs growing up. So it is a very, very different path, but I'm really happy and excited with where it's gone.
Yeah, I bet. Especially with the scope and success that Romulus has had recently. Definitely an interesting career so far in that regards.
Yeah, I mean it's so cool to see how well the film is doing and the audience's reactions to it and how people are just so excited about a new Alien film. I think that's just such a cool thing for the franchise as well, right?
Definitely, especially from a fandom point of view, with how divisive the prequels were. I mean, even though Romulus still plays in that sandbox, but it plays in it, from my perspective, quite well. But then again, Mr. Adam over there's the.
I still like the movie. Don't try and put that on me.
Well, that's what I love, right?
You dislike the prequels.
It's bringing up conversation, though, right? I think that's like Fede said, right? You either hopefully you either love it or you really hate it, right? But either way, it's going to bring that conversation because I know with Prometheus and Covenant, there are the certain things that people are not too key and fond of, and it brings up either people love Prometheus or they love or they hate it. Or they love Covenant or hate it, right? So I think you're kind of getting a similar thing here, but it's awesome because it's still bringing conversation about the film, which altogether helps the film in general, right? It's cool to have people that are so passionate about something. That means it's something that was made that is really well done, I think.
Yeah. And it helps it not fade into, obscurity, doesn't it? When you're generating, I mean, to be fair to the prequels, they do still generate discussion. It is still a form of passion, and to have it always there in the consciousness is a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, sorry, Adam, just before you get on to the next one, with you, I don't want to say you fell into the creature performance, but with it not being perhaps not the route you went down directly, Have you found yourself really taking to it then? You know, from that initial Wookiee in the background.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's interesting because I had a teacher in the film school I went to out here. His name was Phil Kaufman. And he was like, hey, you have a really similar build to Doug Jones. And, I didn't know who Doug was at the time, but I had seen him, of course, in all the films that he's done. Pan's Labyrinth, Hellboy, Shape of Water was at that point, I believe, going up for an Oscar and won Best Picture that year. So I met with Doug. I reached out to him on Instagram, met with him, and I was super nervous because it's like, here's a guy that's at the top, the mecca, right? He's at his career, and he was just the sweetest, like kindest individual, gave me advice, but basically wanted to know about me and my story and how I got to where I was at. And, I've stayed close with Doug throughout my career now. And, he's a really, really good friend of mine, and he's been so, influential in my career. But yeah, I would say now, I mean, I love what I do. I always said when I was into voiceover, wanted to get into voiceover, I would be more satisfied if I never saw my face on screen and people just heard my voice. So it's a little bit different in the world we're at now, right? I mean, you're hearing my screeches and things like that, but it's such a rewarding thing to be able to portray these characters that are, so iconic, and also other characters as well that are new, right? Because also as an actor, right, it's such a fun exploration for not just, you're not just, most of the time actors are telling a story with our body language, right? And so with creatures and stuff, you truly are, that is how you tell your story, right? Like, I mean, the Xenomorph is a Xenomorph, right? But the Xenomorph also has wants and needs and things that it wants to accomplish, right? Just like any person does in a scene, right? And I think it's really cool and also a challenge to create these characters when they are so well established in film history, with all the performances done by all the other people that have been in the suit, legendary performances, and to just grab some of those things and bring them into my performance and allow that to help influence what I've done with this film and other films in the future. So I would say, yeah, I would say I'm really, really grateful and excited that I fell into this role, because I've always been the tall, lanky guy. I always kind of stood out, and I didn't really realize that. I thought for me that you needed to be bigger to do suit performance because the suits are so, a lot of them are massive. And then when I did the Yeti, I found out, oh no, they'll just put you in a muscle suit and then put the suit over the top of you. And voila, you're a big old muscular monster Yeti, right? And I was like, oh, okay. So it is good to be like thin and lanky to do this type of work. So over the past couple of years, I've really started to explore the work and appreciate just how much goes into performances that a lot of people don't realize go into those performances.
Yeah, I think people probably don't realize how it's got, you were talking about the Yeti, and you've got all that animatronic going off in your head. It's got to be distracting at that moment as well. There's got to be a lot. It's not so simple as just wearing a suit, is it?
No. I mean, also with the Xenomorph, right? Like inside of that head that's sitting on top of me are all these servos, and when they call action, I'm just hearing, and then Fede's like, do this, and I'm like, huh, what? And they couldn't really like mic me up in my ear because of the way the head sits and everything. So they just had a big mic off stage with a speaker to like tell me what I needed to do, or like Christopher Swift from Legacy effects would come up to me and kind of like give me notes in between each take as to what they wanted to change or do. So yeah, I mean, it was also just an experience of learning how to adapt and do things a little bit differently than your normal role in a film or television show or whatever it may be.
Yeah, definitely.
So you can't take part in any Alien podcast without being asked about the first time you came across H.R. Giger's iconic Beautiful Beast. For many Alien fans out there, their first encounter left an indelible mark on their memory. What was it like for you?
So interesting thing about me is I didn't grow up in a horror household at all. Like my mom and dad never watched horror films, but I do remember seeing the alien, the Xenomorph, right? And I always was so fascinated by its design. And it always struck me and kind of like was like, whoa, that's super interesting. I didn't see the film until I was much older, but I do remember seeing scenes. Of course, the iconic scene where, the alien is first revealed hanging from the chains and lifting its head right there, which was so cool. We got to do like a homage to that with Romulus, where I got to lift my head coming out of the cocoon, and that first shot of the Xenomorph with the dripping. I was like, oh, that's so cool. Like, Badejo did that scene, and now I get to do, like, that's so cool to me. But for me, like I said, I didn't come from a household that watched scary films, but I do remember very early on seeing the alien and being like, that's a really cool creature. Like that's super fun and unique and so different from everything that I've seen in like the world of horror. Because like for me, what I knew of horror was like, Freddy and Jason and Michael Myers. And I was like, well, this is very, very different.
Yeah, it was kind of the same for me. I saw and was curious about the alien before I ever watched the movies. Like I didn't watch them until my teen years, but just seeing like the Kenner toys on shelves when I was a kid, or going on the Great Movie Ride at like a Disney World with that alien segment that was part of that ride. If you
so mad I missed that.
Yeah, it was super cool. But yeah, so eventually playing the video games and then asking my parents like, hey, can I watch these movies? And then just being totally into it. So
were you aware of it through other pop culture first, or was it a case of you just came to the movie late and experienced it later?
In regards to seeing the film?
Yeah, or experiencing the creature, seeing the form, the design.
The Xenomorph was definitely seen like through like pop culture and stuff first. Yeah, because I hadn't, like I said, I saw the film at a later age, but I had seen scenes, right? I had seen like iconic scenes and things like that. But now you can guarantee, I think I've seen the original Alien like over 15 times. Just with all the research and watching it at all these different screenings and things like that. So I have now caught up on my missed time with the Alien franchise. I can guarantee you that.
Okay, just going off book here for a second, and I guess it kind of applies to Adam as well with his intro into it. Do you think that the experience loses anything being aware of like the design or the shape or the life cycle from pop culture, from like a Simpsons spoof or from a toy on a shelf? Does it lose anything experiencing it outside of the context of that film?
I think it does, because with the marketing of the original Alien, Ridley Scott did a really good job of just not showing anything. Back when marketing didn't show anything and they could get away with not showing anything. I think it does definitely not make it as much as a surprise seeing it. And especially, I mean, thinking about now with, things in this film and how social media is and things like that, there's a lot of things that people have seen that I'm just like, man, I wish people could have seen that the first time, on film as opposed to on the internet. So yeah, I would say if I would have seen, the Xenomorph the first time, just seeing the film, it probably would have had, it still like was shocking and was so cool to me, but it would have, I think, had a more bigger effect seeing it for the first time, revealed in the film itself, as opposed to like you said, like seeing it on a spoof or a toy or whatever it may be on the internet.
That's fair. Go on, Adam. Do you have a take on that one? I know we're here to talk forever, but I'm kind of curious.
I feel like you can kind of compartmentalize it a little bit, maybe. Like they've been doing that for a long time with like the Alien 3 Pepsi commercial and all that, Like I remember in Covenant they had they used the suit for that, and there was this like in Meet the Parents, like here's your date, and it's an alien, right? Like, yeah, I think so. But so there's definitely an element that, like, I see what you mean, Aaron. The alien being so in pop culture, a lot of people like us probably will be exposed to it by other means before we ever get a chance to see the movies. But I think those original movies are still powerful enough that it can. I mean, maybe it's not quite as effective for those who first saw those in theaters, before it really became more mainstream. But I still like, and that's what I think is so cool about Fede, is he played a game like Isolation. He's like, oh yeah, the aliens still can be scary. Let's try and capture that.
Also, one of the greatest horror games of all time.
Yes, definitely.
No question. Like, why have they not made a sequel to that?
Well, we're hoping the 10th anniversary is coming up next month, and we have a whole bunch of stuff planned for that game. So
I
There are
watched a lot
rumors.
of also when I was, working on movement for the Xenomorph, I watched a lot of Stompy because there's a lot of videos of him just kind of moving around the world and stuff. And I also then got like into the deeper hole of like watching the AI and how it works. And it's like, how can we not design like AI in video games to do that now? Like that's one of the smartest AI killers that there are in games, right? Like, why has it been so hard to replicate that in other games in the future?
It is an incredibly complicated creature from the looks of it. But I think it's a little bit the industry in general. The gaming industry is very enclosed. They don't talk a lot about the actual meat and potatoes of game development, unfortunately.
I love that you called him Stompy too, because as far as I know, my girlfriend was the first one to ever call him Stompy. She did a little sketch and wrote Stompy. And I haven't
Oh,
found anyone else say it before then. And Aaron loved it and started calling him Stompy, and then I think it stuck. So
well, I even saw people I know because Fede was incredibly influenced by Alien Isolation with Romulus, but I saw a lot of people calling the Scorchy or Scorched in this, originally Stompy because they were like, man, he's so loud when he's like doing things. So I was like, yeah, you're not wrong. He is pretty loud.
mhm.
Have you? So you said you watched videos. Did you play Isolation? I've got to know if you finished it. If you played it,
I haven't finished it yet. I played it. I've played a good amount of it. I was playing it actually while I was out there on set. I would play it sometimes when I was in the tent or whatever. I brought my little Nintendo Switch Lite, so I was playing it while wearing the suit, which was quite a fun time.
Oh, that's a meme right there. That
Oh,
is.
I know, but I do have to finish it. Yes,
They got it on iPhone now. The
That's
Feral
crazy.
Interactive guys who ported it to the Switch did like iPhone, iPad, and it runs better than it has any right to on that.
That's so cool.
The Switch port is very good. Very good.
Yeah,
It's incredible to think that game's 10 years old.
it still looks amazing.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue there. Adam's asked you one of the default Alien podcast questions. I have to ask you the next.
All right, let's do it.
Come on. What is your favorite of the films and why? And you are allowed to also count Romulus in there if you want to be biased. That is entirely acceptable.
I think I have to go with Alien. Like I think it. Like I'll give my top three. I think are Alien, Aliens, and then I would say Romulus. No bias there, of course. No bias.
None at all.
But I mean, Alien is truly the perfect sci-fi horror film. Like, I mean, Badejo's movements, first off, like just seeing some of his screen tests and how he moved around the world and how he brought such a unique life to this creature that nobody else knew about, before then. And just the atmosphere, right? Like, I think Fede did a really good job of recapturing that atmosphere with Romulus. But some of those long shots in the hallways in the first Alien, and the set design, and the fact that all the characters, you care about all these characters, and they're a likable group of people, right? Because I feel like in a lot of horror films and films like that, you have your main character, and then you have everybody else that's going to die, right? So you truly feel like, hey, this is a group of people that are surviving together, they're living together. I'm rooting for all these people. I don't want them to die. This is horrible. What's going on? And also the first chest burster scene, like, that's iconic. That's absolutely iconic. I mean, I can't imagine when that came out in theaters and people saw that scene for the first time. Like, I would love to see videos of, like, how like these days they do videos of like audiences seeing scenes in films and they like record it. I would love to see like what those first reactions were. But I think just all those elements combined, like, I don't think you can beat the original Alien. I love Aliens because the Queen is super freaking cool. And I mean, it's an action film, James Cameron, but I mean, I can't go against Alien. I can't do it.
That's fair. That's fair.
What about you guys?
Well, okay. I always say that I cannot pick a favorite between 1, 2, and 3. It just depends on my mood. I now add Romulus into that. I cannot pick a favorite between 1, 2, 3, and Romulus.
Includes 4 in there. Man.
So
probably the second film for me. I think the first one is maybe a better movie overall, but the second one's a more fun ride, I think.
That's
And
true.
Was just such a good sequel, because so many sequels cannot do what the second movie did, I think. And Sigourney was just so awesome in that second film.
They're both iconic pieces of cinema in their own rights.
Yeah.
You know, and they both go on to influence cinema, pop culture, their respective genres. You know, imagine Halo without aliens.
Yeah.
Imagine any sci-fi horror now without Alien specifically.
Yeah.
You know, I think 1 and 2 are always going to be objectively the best films, as objective as you can be with art that is film. But
I also think go ahead.
I was just gonna say, but I'll never be able to, as a fan, pick, get rid of that objective thing. I'll never be able to pick between those 4 films now. It just depends on my mood.
Yeah, and I also feel like the Queen is one of the coolest creature designs in cinema. Like, and the fact that the Queen was real is insane.
Yeah, I mean, even what ADI did, bringing her back for AVP, building an animatronic that big, and she hasn't been around for a while in media, so I'm hoping we get to see her again.
Yeah, I do too.
So, coming from a non-horror family, have you gravitated towards horror as you've grown up?
Well, now I kind of have, because that's what I work in, right? Most of the suit performance and prosthetics and things like that I do is in the horror genre. So my mom and dad are getting. My dad had seen a lot of horror films, but my mom, Romulus, for her, she did really well. She watched the whole film, but like that is something that like she's never experienced. She had never seen an alien film, so like her going into this was a very interesting experience, sitting next to her and her watching it, right? But I would say now I've definitely watched more horror than I used to, just because I'm kind of living in that world more so now, which is cool, because there's a lot of really fun films that I didn't see when I was younger that I see, how they influence things that we're getting that are coming out today. And horror right now is insanely, like, it's popping off, right? Like it's such a good year for horror films this year, both, massive budgets and smaller budgets as well, which is cool to see.
Yeah, it feels like it's never been bigger, honestly, between the indie scene and big pictures like Alien. It's pretty wild to see how popular it's become.
Yeah, I'm surprised at how effective James Wan has been and how consistent he has been at bringing like horror back into not schlocky, not piss take kind of horror, but actual genuine tension and atmosphere horror. And then you've had like Fede coming up with Evil Dead and Don't Breathe, and of course, Romulus now. It's nice to see. And what was the other one? The other big one this year? Quiet Place.
Oh, I was going to say Longlegs.
I thought you were going to say Longlegs too. That's
Long
exactly
Legs.
what I thought you were going to say. Yeah.
So it's nice. It's definitely nice to bring that back up.
Yeah, and the fall is set up for some big releases too, which is cool.
I've got to ask now. You've brought her up. How did your mother take to the end of that film? Because my partner had a reaction. Adam's mother had a reaction. We've heard from women in the audience. How did the alien newbie mother take to it?
Yeah, she actually did really well, because I was worried she was just going to kind of be closing her eyes and doing this throughout the film, right, most of the time. But she also knew about the ending. I didn't give her all the details, of course, but being out on set and everything, and talking with my parents, I told them what was going on. So she was aware, but she wasn't aware of exactly what was going to happen. But I'd say she handled it really well. Like she had some fun reactions, but I think I was really shocked that she watched that whole scene through without any of this going on or anything like that. So.
That's fair. I've actually found it quite interesting hearing the female take on all that stuff, to be honest, because Alien was always the inversion. It was male rape and male violence in its metaphorical and very obvious sci-fi allegory. But it's been interesting hearing the reverse of that in the modern day.
Yeah, I mean, there's the ending, the cocoon. There's a lot of birthing happening in Romulus.
Definitely. Very overt at times, that cocoon.
Oh man, yeah. Trust me, I know that cocoon very well.
Well, before we talk the cocoon, though, because there are frigging questions about that,
Yeah.
of course, every actor and performer who works on Aliens films, has their own unique story about how they became attached to the project.
Mhm.
You've talked about it, Legacy reaching out to you following Mandalorian, but how did the rest of that sort of conversation go? Was the screen test? Was there an audition, so to
Yeah.
speak? What was that casting experience like for you?
So basically, what happened is after I'd done the Yeti, they brought me in for some pictures, and I took like some action shots of doing classic creature movements, things like that. And they basically told me like, hey, we're trying to put you up for something. We can't tell you anything more than that. We'll see what we can do. And then I get a call a couple weeks later from everybody, all the bosses at Legacy, basically saying like, hey, this is one of those phone calls that might change things for you. And that's kind of when I found out that I was going to be attached to the new Alien film. Then I, went in and started doing fittings and tests and and the whole process. And Fede came by a couple times and saw some stuff. So yeah, it was a whirlwind, but it was so much fun. Just being a part of the whole process from like the very beginning of building all the Xeno stuff and seeing it all being built in the shop, and then seeing it out on set, and then wearing the suit out there was a just an insane journey. It's so cool. Like, it's still surreal to me. Like, it really is. Like, it's. Like I said, I've seen the film 8 times. I've seen my name in the credits, and it still is just like, oh yeah, that's my name attached to the Alien franchise and the Xenomorph, which is, I don't have to say anything more about the Xenomorph. It's just really, it's really cool to me. Like, I'm still like nerding out about that.
That's awesome. And that also goes right into our next question. Just how involved were you during the suit making process? Like, did you do a lot of work with Legacy Effects to make sure you were able to perform in it initially?
Yeah, so I went to Legacy Effects a good amount of times, just for fittings and things like that, changing things, trying on the hands, the feet that I call the Xeno ones, because they were basically like sock shoes, and then they built the foot over the top of it, so I could do running and jumping and things like that. They did a couple of cocoon tests at Legacy Effects with just like a stunt head and like the very bare bones of the cocoon. So we tested me going through it different times and things like that. And then, tested a good amount of different Xenomorph heads, just for movement and things like that. And, took photos, references and things. And that was kind of the whole process. And then went out there and shot everything that we worked on.
The performance of the alien varies from film to film and director to director. Alien Romulus took a lot of cues from both Alien and Aliens in terms of how it treated the Xenomorph. Did you find it difficult to prepare for the role, or were you given specifics early on about what they needed from your performance for Romulus?
So originally there wasn't an exact idea. Originally the Xenomorph was going to be walking more on 2 legs. And so I was training for that, right? I was doing a lot of ballet exercises to strengthen my calves and also my heel of my foot, because the Xenomorphs in this film, right? They don't have a heel on their foot, right? What do you call that area? The back of that your Achilles? Is that what it is? Your Achilles? The back. So here's your foot like this, right? And this is the back part of your foot,
like the tendon piece.
Yeah, they don't have that.
Okay.
They have like a gap there, as opposed to, it's because they're kind of like a horse or something, right? They have that little like gap in between. So I was training for that, to be on my tippy toes, right? Because they kind of move in that way. And then Fede, like kind of midway through, was like, I want the Xenomorph to crawl more. And so I was the only thing out there that was able to crawl. So I ended up getting to do a lot of really, fun and unique things. But that also came with challenges, because the heads that were built for me to wear were never designed to go up, right? Because you want the Xenomorph to be looking at its prey, right? What it's looking at. So they had to rig the head to be able to lift up, so that I could, number one, lift my head and support it, but also that so I wasn't looking straight down at the ground. So that was a big change. So for me, I worked on all of the movement of walking, and like I said, I looked at Stompy a lot. kind of what Legacy Effects was going with their animatronic and the Bunraku. Also, like I said, all the performers like Tom Woodruff Jr., Badejo, looking at all their performances, and then it kind of changed like on a dime when I got out there, and it became more of a on all fours type of xenomorph, more crawling, kind of lurking, kind of hiding in different areas, right? And so that was kind of the process of how I got to the movements that I did, but also still, like I said, trying to incorporate things from all the other suit actors that I had watched that have done the role, right? And then bring my own things into it as well, along with other media that I've seen, right? Because I said Alien Isolation, with Fede, like for me is also a big part that I wanted to look at, because the Xenomorph also kind of moves in his own unique way, and that as well. So I wanted to bring that into the performance as well, when whatever possible areas I could, right? Also, we get the iconic with Badejo when he's all curled up, tucked his head in and his arms are down, and you get that unfurling. I got to do that, that was probably one of the coolest moments for me, because it's like, this is like cinema history right here, right? This is so cool. But yeah, so it became a lot more from two-legged to four-legged than what I was originally expecting when I went out there.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And when you were doing those initial suit tests and getting in the suit, trying the movement for the first time, did you find it difficult with just the any claustrophobia of the suit, the head weight and the servo noise and stuff like that? Was it something you had to acclimate to, or was it something you were like, oh, this ain't so bad, I can do this?
Yeah, so the suit itself really wasn't bad. The head was quite heavy, of course, because that's where all the servos. Also, nobody wears a giant banana on their head most of the time. But I think the biggest thing for me was just getting comfortable and moving in the suit, which was nice that I got that opportunity back at Legacy Effects, because we don't think about when we walk, but all of a sudden when people put cameras on you and they're rolling and everybody's looking at you, you all of a sudden forget how to walk a lot of the time, and especially if you're trying to be a creature or something that's not human, right? So I was glad I got the opportunity at Legacy Effects to kind of work through that and workshop and try different things. And, they were super, Christopher Swift was super instrumental in helping me build those movements there, along with, Shane and everybody else that was there. But the suit itself wasn't bad. It was tight, because I also had a flight harness on underneath everything else for whenever they would do stunts. But outside of that, I didn't mind wearing the suit at all. Even the head, as I wore it more and more, I got used to it. And I did a lot of strength training in my neck and stuff to prepare for that, because I knew that was going to be the hardest part of the whole thing was just the weight of the head with all the servos, similar to with Dane, and Prey, and wearing the Predator head, right? It was kind of a similar thing, just a little bit different.
And how long did it take to get in and out of the suit?
It's about 20 minutes to get in. So it's a morph suit
there
underneath, basically, and then it is the flight harness. When I would wear the flight harness, then it's like shorts and a long sleeve t-shirt is the arms. Then the scuba suit goes over the top. I call it a scuba suit, but it's the full body. Then the chest and the pipes are a Velcro piece, and then the neck and the head go on set, because otherwise I really couldn't see where I was going. And then the tail, if needed to be, was just a tie onto your back type of thing. There's a little rope area right back there, and they would tie it on and use it when needed, and then puppeteer it with a rod.
So the chest was a separate piece?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Is that the first time they've done that, Adam?
I don't know.
I'm not sure. We could ask Alec when we have him on hopefully.
I feel like it was all one molded stuff until this point. That's interesting.
That would make that based on the pictures I've seen, I feel like that probably is the case. But it was nice for me because when I wasn't being used, but I was still in the suit every day pretty much. I didn't have the chest piece on, so I could actually lean back and relax, which was a very nice thing. Legacy Effects took very good care of me, and I'm very appreciative of everything they've done.
Everybody I've heard speak about working on this film has had nothing but good things to say about everybody else they worked with in the entire experience. So it's good to hear you continuing that positivity there.
Oh yeah, and the Hungarian crew, everybody I met out in Budapest was awesome. I got to become friends with a lot of the stand-ins for the actors, because they were all from that area. So, I got to know them really well and spend time with them. And they showed me the sights and sounds of Budapest, outside of the touristy stuff that everybody that goes there to, visit sees. So that was really cool. That was really special to get to kind of get immersed
experience.
Yeah. Get immersed into the culture and everything out there. That was really cool.
Oh, that's cool. I'm curious about so you mentioning having the time at Legacy to, get used to the suit and get used to that whole thing before you actually got on set. Has that been typical of your experience doing the creature work?
Yeah. So, when I've worked with Legacy Effects, I've gotten to, because I live pretty close to them as well. It's nice that I can go in, when they're sculpting something and then try it on. There's been a couple cases where that hasn't happened just because of, time and things being shipped and different things like that. But for the most part, I've gotten to try on everything and kind of, get a feel for that final product before I wore it for the first time, out on the set. It was great. It was super helpful because, like I said, it allowed me to work out those kinks of how am I going to move? What am I going to do? Even though that changed when I got out there, I still had the basis already built. So it was much easier to transition into that. Okay, instead of on two legs now, I'm on all fours.
So did you do, speaking of being on all fours, and the harness, did you do some of the climbing on the hive?
Yeah, so I did some stuff in the hive. I'm not sure how much of it was actually used, but I do know that I was used reference for a lot of those shots. And then speaking with ILM at the premiere, they were telling me that they used my movements for all the CGI Xenos in the film. So all those movements, although they are not me, they are my movements that were used earlier on.
Did you do mocap for that then, or was that just?
I did have a mocap suit on a few times. Yes.
Okay. Was that well after the fact? After principal?
No, that was actually out there. I didn't do any mocap outside of being out there in Budapest.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, it was interesting because Fede, he wanted as much of the suit that could be used for the shots as possible because it would make it easier for visual effects to go in and create off of whatever was not there, right? As opposed to having to fully CGI the Xenomorphs, right? They could at least use the suit and me and movements and then just build off of that, which would make it easier on them.
And you mentioned, I don't think we heard this before. You mentioned there was a Bunraku puppet.
Yes,
in use?
yes, there was. Mm-hmm.
So was there any sort of collaboration, coordination there in regards to that moving the same way you did, or you taking things from the ways that moved?
Yeah. So like I said, the interesting thing is that the Bunraku and the animatronic couldn't crawl. So, it's used they kind of, what I liked about what Fede did with the film is that he used everything that he had, his toys, I think, as he's put it at one point in time, but he used each thing where it made sense to be used. Right. And I think that's a really smart and awesome way of doing things. And also he would change things sometimes super quickly. He'd be like, oh, I want Trevor in the suit, but then he'd be like, oh no, I want the animatronic instead. Or, I want the Bunraku. Right. But everything got used in its own way. It had its own, own special uses for different things. I think the Bunraku, if I remember correctly, was used in the scene with Archie with Tyler when he's pulled up. They just took half of the body and then put the animatronic head on, and then people are puppeteering it and doing things like that. But yeah, everything was used in its own different ways. But yeah, it was cool. It was cool to just be a part of that process and also get to watch Legacy Effects work too, and also be a part of helping with some of the puppeteering occasionally. So that was fun.
Oh, you got to play with it as well.
Yeah, I did. I had some fun with some things. Yeah, maybe at some point I'll get to post some behind the scenes of that because there's some fun stuff.
Oh, that'd be cool. Well, I always say this is the fun part of the film cycle. Just after the film's released, everybody's starting to learn bits about it, and everybody who worked on it is then just going, here, have a look at everything, and it's always the most interesting aspect for us. And now I'm also kind of curious. Sorry. The scene when there was, so speaking of Archie, being held up there, there's that shot of, I think it's three aliens running down the tunnel. You're one of those?
So those are all CGI'd.
There's okay.
But they are all mapped. Like, it's funny
From your
because
movement.
after ILM told me that, I was like watching. I was like, oh yeah, that is exactly how I moved in the suit. So yeah. So but yeah, those are all CGI'd up there.
Okay, I wouldn't have guessed that. So
Yeah, they look. I mean, they did a really good job of mixing, practical with visual effects, right?
Hmm.
I think they did a really good job of that. Even with the scene, with Rain, with Kaylee shooting and blowing everything up, right? Those were puppets that were built, and then they intercut, the CGI Xenos with the practical explosions, right?
Yeah.
So.
And that also goes right into our next question.
Look at that!
So,
I'm just. It's like I read these or something. I actually did.
King of the segue.
So, Alien Romulus made use of multiple special effect techniques to bring the xenomorphs in it alive. That included yourself in the suit as the adult alien, as well as a full-sized animatronic. But it also allowed the alien school of thought for a lot of it, often not giving us a lot of views of the alien until the final scenes of the third act.
Mm-hmm.
How much of the finished film would you say was you in the suit?
I would say like a percentage, or
I guess you could just be like, what scenes were
okay, yeah. Okay, the cocoon, stalking Kay, the grabbing of Rain when she's blasting off into the elevator shaft, and 0G. And then there's a few little moments in the hive. And then there is, like I said, I'm the mapping of the CG Xenos. I think when I looked at the original breakdown, I was used almost the same amount as the animatronic and Banraku were combined as well. So it was cool to get that much, use, right? Because, going back to the first film, all they had was the suit, right? So it was cool that Fede still wanted to feature the suit and use it in some really cool ways and some scenes that were super fun to shoot.
It's good to see that balance of techniques as well. To be that equal is cool. So this film was unusual in that apparently it was filmed in chronological order, and that's not something that happens very often. So I'm curious as to if that was very much the case for you. Was your first day of filming the birth from the cocoon?
Yeah, so I got out there right when they were basically finishing the facehuggers. So I believe they had just finished. We can talk like spoilerly open about this, right? This is past.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Just wanted to double check about that. Yeah, so I got out there right when the facehuggers were basically ending. So Weta was getting ready to head out. There was a few people left. So they were shooting the scenes with Aileen having the facehugger on her. And then, Rook sitting on the table and then talking to Rook about, what are her chances. And then from that point on, they moved over into, the cocoon. The first thing I shot was the actual raise up of where when Scorchy or Scorch falls out of the cocoon on the ground and is unfurling, that shot of the xenomorph raising his head. That's the first thing that I shot. So it was that iconic, like, curled up on the ground, lifting my head. I remember after that shot, I walked by, and Fede was at the monitors with the producers. He was like, "That's Alien," and it was like, I was like, "Oh, that's so cool! That's so cool to see that."
That is perfect feedback from day one. So the cocoon as well. That is you. That is you forcing your way out of a fiberglass or something.
Yes, it is.
What the fuck was that like? Because that must have been some contortionist crap going off there.
Yeah, so that was super, super fun. So basically, I'll paint a picture of it. So inside, right, I'm basically almost upside down. I do end up upside down, and then you have I believe it was Pete and Rob back there basically grabbing my legs and trying to push me through, because you had to use force to, break the, I don't even know what you call it, the chrysalis, break open the opening, right? So we're shooting that first take, and I come through the cocoon, and I'm kind of dangling there, and I'm just kind of, I'm limp, right? Like I've just been born. And Fede is like, "All right, let's take him back up and do it again." And I'm like, okay. Keep in mind at this point too, I have drool tubes in my mouth, so like drool's coming out, the animatronics are moving, there's water and goo from the cocoon, there's goo all over me, so it is, it's a fresh birth. And I remember going back up, and I I have a little bit of vision out of the mouth because it's a little, it's a little bit open, but otherwise it's pretty much just pitch black. So it's like being born, right? And I'm getting pulled back up, and all I remember is just like my eyes and my vision start going, and I reach out and I grab onto Shane because I'm about to just pass out. And Shane's like, "What happened? What's going on?" I was like, "I was about to pass out, Shane." And Fede was like, "What's going on?" And so from that point on, we worked different ways to do it, because the thing that was happening is that because I was curled up and contorted, the flight harness already is squeezing so much that I couldn't get breath out, and I'm already in all this stuff. So the final take that we did, basically they just kind of pushed me through as quick as they could. And then I remember I was laying there on the ground in like a heap, just, curled up, the heads in all different directions. My legs are over my head. It's a wild. And then they're like, "Here comes the tail," because they hooked the tail to me. And all of a sudden the big old tail just comes flying out of the cocoon and just lands on my head. And then I just hear him, Christopher Swift say, "Stay in it, stay in it." And I'm just like, okay. I'm just laying there like, I'm moving, I'm alive. So yeah, the cocoon is definitely something that I will forever remember. What I think what the coolest part about that was for me, though, is that I remember reading an article from the first film when Badejo was doing the iconic scene where he first gets revealed lifting up with the chains. And I remember reading that he almost passed out doing that scene because he was upside down, right? So they brought a stunt guy in to be in the suit for Badejo, and he ended up passing out. So I was like, it's cool to see that even after all these years, that still is a factor when wearing the Xenomorph head.
You're not alone in that. When we interviewed Dane for Prey, there's definitely, some moments where if it doesn't happen, it almost happens to a lot of creature performers, I'm sure.
Was that the most difficult scene?
Yeah.
For you? Yeah.
For sure. It was cool though, because like that was my introduction into the world. I was like, I mean, if I could do this, I could do anything, right?
Yeah. Start with the worst and then work your way after that.
Like I said, the head got the other one that was pretty wild was when Kay is underneath the bridge after she's fallen through the ship.
Yeah.
And onto the station. The jump where I land on her. So I was doing that jump with everything on and the tail as well, but I was doing that jump blind because there's no peripheral vision. I don't got no side mirrors inside the Xenomorph head. So I was standing on like the second step of the set there, and I would jump, and there would be like, "All right, you're a little close to the edge. Try again." And so like we did that a couple times. And I'm just like, "Oh, please don't let me jump and hit it and go over the top or whatever." And then Shane and Isabel, I believe, has talked about this in one of her interviews, but she's crawling underneath. And then Fede wanted to add, like, when I land, like a splash, right? So you had Shane with a giant bucket of water. And I was pretty cold water from what Isabella said. And when I land, he just throws that on top of Isabella. And she wasn't expecting it. And I think we did that a couple times too. So I was like, oh man, Isabella's, she goes through a lot in the film, but she was really going through it, like shooting the film as well. But she was a trooper. She was awesome.
I enjoyed all the cast in the film. I've got to say. How did you get to work with a lot of them then?
So I mostly worked with, I mean, I got to know all of them for sure, but I mostly worked with Isabella, Kay the most, and then I worked with Kaylee towards the end more.
For the Hive stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about the elevator shaft? Did you practically film any stuff there, or was that just all CGI?
So originally they were going to have me put me on wires like what they did with David and Kaylee. But with just things going on and things like that, they didn't end up doing that. So they just CG'd all those. But they were going to have me in the shaft. Well, I was super excited because I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to get to go flying around in the Xenomorph suit. That's going to be crazy. And then it, as things happen in the film world, they don't happen, and you just go on.
Yeah, just got to crack on, haven't you?
Yep.
So the Alien series is full of so much iconic imagery, especially when it comes to the alien itself.
Mm-hmm.
So when you think of Romulus, what is the scene that stands out in your mind as that alien imagery that defines the film?
I think one of my favorite scenes. It's funny. That it has nothing to do with the xenomorphs or any of the other creatures. But one of my favorite scenes is the opening on the home planet, right? Like Jackson Star. I think the fact that you're seeing such a live and real environment, right? I think they did such an incredible job. But if we're going onto the actual ship, I think one of my favorite scenes, honestly, which I think is super cool, they got so much feature time, is the facehuggers. I think one of my favorite scenes is the cryo chamber. I really love when Andy's frozen there and then they're starting to pop out and break out of the 3D printed things and land in the water. I would say that I'll just give you I'll give you three and then I'll pick one to be like the one. Okay. I'll say that one. I'll say the cocoon because I think it's super cool to just see something that we haven't seen in the the life cycle of the xenomorph.
Yeah.
And then I would say the acid shootout is super fun. I think though I am gonna go with the cryo chamber facehugger scene. I think what I love is that the facehuggers got so much screen. I think the facehuggers actually got more screen time than the xenomorph did in this film.
Yeah,
I think of all the creatures, they get the most screen time. Like I'm almost positive of that, which is incredible because what effects did an incredible job with the facehuggers, and they looked so fun, especially the little RC one that would drive around that Fede posted a video of at one point in time. But I think honestly the cryo chamber scene. It does a really good job, I think, of kind of showing you that first moment of like suspense and horror. And it really sets the mood for kind of what's coming and kind of shifts it kind of shifts you into that, like, oh, we're going back to like a horror sci-fi film, right? As opposed to more, there is action, of course, but it's, it's kind of going back to those roots that kind of made the first film so iconic. So I would say that. What about you guys? I'm curious to hear what your two are, what your scenes are.
For me, it would probably be the zero gravity sequence. And I think a lot of that is also due to the fact it's been something I've wanted to see for a long time. There's an old draft of Alien vs Predator that Peter Briggs wrote many years ago when that was first becoming a thing. And one of the opening scenes of one of his drafts was a fight between the aliens and the predators and zero gravity acid carnage. And it's never been something we got to, actually see realized up on the big screen. And from the first trailers that we got, with Kay floating around with all that acid blood around it, I was like, we're finally getting to see this in action.
And I like that, Fede used it in a way that he introduced it early on, and then he just, you were aware of it, but it didn't come back until like it was really like, oh, okay, this is a great time to use zero gravity because it makes perfect sense to use it at this point. Like, okay, this is how we're going to save ourselves or try to save ourselves, right?
For me, I think it's probably, if I include them both as one scene, probably the cocoon scene, because that was really cool seeing that interesting new part of the life cycle. But also after Kay, Isabella Merced's character, falls out of the cargo hauler and is in that room and hiding from the xenomorph, and like you were talking about, when you just land behind her and there's this splash of water, it just felt so Alien Isolation, like even the stomps it was doing on the grate and then it drags the bodies away, like that exact same stuff happens in Isolation. So to see that kind of, like, we weren't really seeing the xenomorph too well yet, but you could definitely feel its presence there pretty dramatically. So I thought that was just so effective. With, I believe there's something that happens in between those two scenes, but if I'm including those as one scene, that was probably it for me.
There's a shot I really like as well in the Hive, and I think this is the animatronic suit, alien, of David Johnson, Andy there, curled up on the floor under the blue laser. The alien starts to rise. You have the face huggers crawling up along the the handrails,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, that is fantastic. I love that shot.
Yeah, that is the animatronic. I remember I think we shot that with Splinter Unit actually. But yeah, that was such a cool shot. There's another one too that was super fun. It's like maybe a split second you see it, but it's when they're kind of doing that montage of all the xenomorphs kind of like coming towards them. And it's like probably you get it for maybe like a second, right? It is wild to me that like, you spend so much time shooting all these shots and then you see them for maybe a second, some of them, but they look, so there's one shot, it's the animatronic, and it's got kind of like orange backlit because it's in the hive area. And during that scene, they couldn't get the other animatronic arm on the wall because of just how it was. So what ended up happening is I put on the suit, I put on my hand, the glove, I got on the back of the animatronic dolly, like holding on to the animatronic, and like reached my arm around and like put my hand on the wall and clawed it just so it could have a hand to grab on. So here I am, like holding on to the side of the big old animatronic, like right next to it. And it's like pushing me against the wall as it's like moving and turning its head. And I'm just like, gotta make it look real.
Suffering for your art.
I think there's a photo of that. I hope I can find at some point, because that one, that was such a cool moment. It's like, oh, this is really cool. I remember Alec Gillis told me, he was like, yep, that's suit acting right there. He's like, there you go. I was like, yeah, this is fun. I'm enjoying it. It's a blast.
Did you ever get to speak to Tom?
To who?
To Tom Woodruff.
Tom. No, I have not met Tom Woodruff at this point yet. I will be meeting him, I think, later this year, though, which I'm super excited about. But yeah, I know Alex Group really well. Legacy, of course, because like, it was the dream team out there, right? Like Legacy Effects, Studio Gillis,
on the old stuff, yeah,
and what a effects, right? Like, how can you literally assembled the Avengers of like
of 80s practical effects.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's pretty uncommon. Typically, they'll just contract like a single studio. So it was nice to see them all working together. And I'm very curious to see what it does with the series, since they'll be doing beyond just the face artist with that one. Yeah, I'm super excited for the series.
So you got to watch the premiere at what was it? Was it the Egyptian? Did we say
Chinese theater? The
Chinese theater in LA. Was that your first time watching it complete?
Yes.
Okay. What was that experience like?
Going back to Surreal. I mean, it was so cool. First off, to see everybody, right? Because most people I hadn't seen. I had seen Fede a couple times, Monsterpalooza and things like that, and Comic-Con and all that. But a lot of people, right, I hadn't seen since we had shot the film. So it was kind of like a little reunion, and getting to share that and meet so many people that worked on the film after we had already shot it, right, with visual effects and all those type of things, and hear all their comments and thoughts and all that was super cool. And also just getting to share it. I think the biggest thing was getting to share it with my parents was the coolest part, right? Because, I think as an actor, for a lot of people, right, having your film premiere at the Chinese theater is like a probably a top tier thing you would love to have happen. And I got to do that, and I got to bring my parents, and that's like, I think that's a lot of people's dreams, to be able to bring somebody that they care so much about to see their work. So
yeah. I love the photo with you and Dane, by the way.
Oh yeah. I was glad I ran into Dane that night.
It's funny because you're both such tall people, and then there's this photo of you both together, just exactly in each other's eye line. It's like, okay, they look like normal sized people. They look like the average. Are you gearing up for AVP? Is that what you and Dave have been practicing?
That would be fun. That'd be super fun.
Did you film any footage or scenes that stuck out to you as being absent in the finished version of the film?
Maybe some stuff in the hive, but it wasn't anything that was, super different or life-changing or film changing, I guess you could say. Right. But yeah, outside of that, I think pretty much everything that I shot made it into the final cut, which was really cool to see.
Okay. And when you think about your time on Alien Romulus, what is the one story that always jumps out about your experience? Your party story, so to speak.
Oh man, I mean, the cocoon one is a super fun one to tell. I think for me, honestly, one of the coolest things for me was probably seeing the sets for the first time. Just because I remember the internet when the teaser trailer came out, they were like, "Oh, it's going to be all CGI. These aren't real." Blah 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 blah. As the internet does, right? They just kind of run with things. But like walking into the Romulus space station for the first time, the first day I got there, and like seeing Big Chap hanging up in the inside, I was like, "Whoa! Like this is real. Like this is an alien film. Like I'm standing on an alien film." And then once they started unloading all the xenomorphs and they got there, it was like, that I'm gonna be in that suit. Like that's crazy. Like I'm working with legends and getting to be a part of something that's like so iconic. I think that for me, and also the second thing, I think that it's not as much of a story that's gonna make people like whoa, but getting to spend a lot of when we weren't doing things, when there was downtime on set, like sitting in the tent with the legacy crew and hearing them tell stories about when they worked on Jurassic Park and Terminator and Aliens and these type of things, like getting to hear stories about that people have never heard and may not ever hear was like, whoa, like these are films that I watched growing up, and now I'm getting to like work with the guys that are doing this, and that's so cool to me. So I think for me, those are the two like big moments that were just like I said, they're not the most exciting stories. I think the Cocoon is my most fun and exciting story, but just seeing those sets for the first time, like walking onto all those sets, seeing the Hive for the first time also was incredible. Monica, the art who created the Hive, like walking in there with her and like her showing it to me, was like, wow, like this is crazy. Like this is an alien film. This is what?
It's funny you bringing up Big Chap now. I hadn't really thought to ask about that experience of seeing him up there, because obviously he wasn't built as a suit to wear in this film. He is just this sacrificed, crucified looking creature just hanging up there on the set. That must have been incredible.
Yeah, and at first I don't know why, because I read the script and everything, but I didn't put two and two together that was Big Chap at first. I don't know how I didn't do that, because I know I was at Legacy Effects and I was seeing like him being sculpted, and I just didn't put it together. I was like, oh, here's a xenomorph that they put up on the wall that they're like extracting from. And I was like, oh yeah, duh, it's Big Chap.
I can't wait to see. I mean, I keep saying it to like Adam and that, I can't wait for the home release so I can actually pause like the Cocoon sequence and look at the close up frames of you in that suit coming out and see that statue. Not statue is probably the wrong word. See that model of Big Chap just there. I really can't wait to see more of what was going off in the background, because the art design and the set design on this film was just fucking fire.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Oh, I did actually, you saying that made me think of a story. So when the Cocoon is opening originally, I ended up being in the suit, and they had me actually operating one of the prongs. But the fun story is Fede came up there, because what he wanted to happen, because you kind of could see it in the final take, but he kind of wanted the Xeno to kind of be moving around, like, and so you could see like force being applied to the outer skin. So Fede came up there while we were all sitting up there puppeteering, and he grabbed like this, like one of these like stunt heads we had, and he like got inside the Cocoon and was like pushing it around and like moving around. It's like, this is what I'm thinking. He like put it on a rod and was like pushing it around. Meanwhile, like the Legacy guys are like standing on the edge of the Cocoon, like, don't fall through, Fede. Like, oh my gosh. But that was what was so cool, is like he was so hands-on, and like he had so much passion and love for what he was doing, and he was so kind to me and helpful with helping me create what he was envisioning for the Xenomorph and for other things that I got to do as well. So, but yeah, that's a fun little story that I forgot about. That's fun, because it's like, he was just getting in there and being so hands-on and just you could see how much love and passion he had for the Alien franchise and for the project.
That's one of my big takeaways from the film, from hearing him talk about the film, is just how much of a love letter it is from him. And yes, it's like I said to you earlier, everybody I've spoken to has just had nothing but positivity about their interactions with Fede, about their experiences with him, and how he was working with everybody. So it's really nice to see that just carries on through so many different levels and departments involved in making this film.
And his barbecue skills are on point. Like when he do those big barbecues, I got to be a part of the last one he did, and
that's how we knew when filming was getting started, because he did a post on Instagram showing this just massive grill of meats, and that he was feeding his crew before the work started. So
yeah, and then Gallo, his director of photography, his DP, like if he doesn't get a nomination this year at the Oscars, like what are we doing? What are we doing? Like there's some incredibly gorgeous shots in that film. I mean, I'm sure Dune 2 is going to win because, well, it's Dune.
Yeah.
But still, like his cinematography deserves a nomination because it is beautiful.
It is gorgeous.
Yeah.
Gorgeous film. This is another one of those, I'm sorry, kind of default template questions.
You're good.
You have to ask. Did you take any souvenirs? Is there an alien head hidden away out of frame somewhere?
I just got this one.
Nice.
Like the Regal?
Yeah, that's the one
I'm
sending you.
My desk is just full of these things right now. So I have a few things. I did take a piece of the hive. I have some of the goo, and then I have some of the actual hive itself. I have the sign, of course, from the tent that I posted on Instagram. I have up there is something really fun. I don't know if I can mention what I have. I feel like I maybe can. I don't know. Yeah, I feel like I probably
Come on. Go and get it. Go and tell us.
From one of the ones that they blew up, the Xenomorphs that they blew up, I got a full finger from one of them.
Oh, nice.
And then I have like one of the let me get it. 1 second. And then I have I didn't take any of these, I promise. Then I have like one of their bio containers for like Weyland Yutani.
Oh, nice.
Sticker. Yeah.
That's cool.
So I got a few little things here and there, and a whole bunch of photos, But and then Legacy was kind enough to give me this, which is awesome.
Nice.
Oh,
cool. I have one of those myself.
I bet, yeah. But yeah, so I got a few things here and there. It's hard.
It's expected these days.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to, especially on a set like that when everything is so secretive and things like. And also like I can't take the suit. I can't take anything like that. So it's like you try to find little things here and there that that may not be missed.
Is there temptation to get things like your own suit? Like some of these Halloween sort of places that are coming out and doing better and better.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, like, I will never wear a suit unless Legacy or another shop makes another suit that is like the quality of what Legacy Effects made for that film. So, I don't think. I think if I ever I just get a shirt that says, my other costume is a Xenomorph.
Can't go back after wearing the real thing,
right? Yeah, I mean, the detail and just the paint job, the sculpt, just so many little things, like looking at it up close. Like I said, that hopefully, Legacy Effects, I'm sure we'll share at some point, and I'll get to share some stuff as well. But just like just an incredible design. And I was super. I just thought it was super cool that it kind of harkened back to Big Chap with the look of what Scorch kind of ended up being.
Come on then. Here's another big question.
Yep.
Smooth heads or ridged heads?
Are you asking about the Xeno?
Yes.
I don't. Man. I mean,
Asking the tough questions over here.
That is a tough question. No, I can't say combo. That's cheating. I'll go with smooth.
I will say it does feel like Romulus kind of is a combo because you have that initial kind of the frontal ridge, but the rest of the dome is pretty smooth.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. I love that the skull was back.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and it was
overtly back.
Yeah, and before they, darkened up the head when they were building it, right, you could really see the skull inside of it, which was super cool. And I was like, "Oh, that's awesome! That's so cool."
Would you jump straight back in for a sequel?
Oh, absolutely.
No hesitation.
No.
The experience was.
Yeah. I mean, working with Legacy Effects, they're incredible people, and just getting to the honor to wear a suit that so many, there's so few people have gotten to wear it that has become such an iconic creature in cinema history was like I said, it's surreal to me. It's an honor because I know how much that character means to so many people, and to like hear the random messages from people all over the world saying how much they enjoyed the film and they liked the Xenomorph and what I'd done. Like that means so much to me to hear, and also how well the film is doing. Like I said, like to kind of like revitalize the Alien franchise, kind of like what Prey did for Predator, right? That's such a cool thing to me.
Yeah, definitely. And I've just literally thought of something else you mentioned earlier. You mentioned screeches. Did you vocalize?
No.
Okay.
No, I didn't do any of the vocalization.
Okay, just to check there.
Maybe inside I was screaming some. No,
Fair enough. So that is actually everything from Adam and I. But before we let you fall down that elevator shaft, is there anything you'd like to share with our audience? Any anecdote or thought that we haven't given you the opportunity to discuss?
No, I appreciate you guys for reaching out, and I'm glad I'm getting to share now what I've held on to for over a year at this point. And like I said, and what you've echoed is like everybody on set was incredible. It's truly a love letter to the Alien franchise. Everybody put so much time and effort and care into this project, and it's just amazing to see how many people like it and are excited about the Alien franchise. And even those that are having qualms and maybe don't like it, it's still cool to see that the film is bringing up discussion and talks among not just people that are diehard Alien fans, but also people that just enjoy film in general.
That's always one of the good things about the gaps that we have between the films. So, each new series of films tends to bring in new fans, and with the success of Romulus, the giant success of Romulus compared to, Covenant and the AVPs, it's really nice to hopefully see a new wave of people, moviegoers, discovering the franchise through this film.
So. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you very much, Trevor. Very much appreciate you taking the time to come and join us. Are there any outlets that you want to refer people onto? Do you want to shout out your Instagram? Is there anywhere in particular you want to send people to find out more about yourself or interact with you?
Yeah, sure. I mean, my Instagram is just my name, Trevor with an _ Newlin. Like I said, at some point I'll probably post some more behind the scenes stuff. And I've got some other projects coming up. So if you are interested in following those and seeing what's going on in my creature world and my life in general, that's the place to find me.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Trevor.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
And that was our interview with creature actor Trevor Newlin, who played the Xenomorph in Alien Romulus. Again, we just want to get a big thank you to Trevor for giving us his time and joining us on our podcast to talk to us a bit about his experience with Alien Romulus. And we certainly hope to see him back as the Xenomorph in the future, maybe in a future Alien or AVP film. But we have more interviews. What were you going to say there?
Huffing that cope.
Oh, come on. It's got to happen one of these days.
I think we are in a better position now than we have been in 10 years. maybe for a return to AVP. You know, the success of Romulus, the success of Prey. We'll have to see how Badlands does. But you know, we've already seen Trevor meeting up with Dane. You know, Dane Delegro, who was the Feral Predator. Dane was at the Romulus premiere in LA. So, you know, maybe we get the two of them scrapping at the Badlands premiere. Maybe that's our AVP.
That would certainly be cool to see.
Promoting fight between the creature perform. Come on, Adam. I was joking.
but for real. But yeah, we do have more interviews planned for Romulus with creature effects producers as well as concept artists planned, and we'll probably have more than just beyond that as well. We are asking people, and we already have some in the works. So I hope y'all are still interested in a bunch of Romulus stuff coming. We have the Blu-ray, which was just announced, and that will be coming in December. We have it on digital coming this month, so we'll have some special features to dig into quite soon. But yeah, this month of October, we're celebrating the 10th anniversary of Alien Isolation. So we will be shortly recording our retrospective podcast for that game. And we'll just be doing some things to celebrate the game in terms of our live streams and some of our posts we're doing. So keep an eye on our website and our social media channels for that.
We're also going to have a big round table retro interview with a bunch of the developers who worked on the game. The schedule was completely screwed up at the minute, so none of it's going to be out on time for the anniversary, I don't think. But it should still be good stuff over this month and the start of next month. I'm very much looking forward to the roundtable interview.
Yeah, definitely. It was the first I've heard about that, so I'm excited.
No, it's not.
Well, you mentioned one. I didn't know we were doing a roundtable, but
oh yeah, I think there's about 3 or 4 who agreed to come join us.
Okay, well that's awesome. Then I'm excited. Well, thank you all again for watching or listening. Again, you can find us on our website, avpgalaxy.net, any of the major social channels, Facebook, X, Instagram, or Threads. Big thank you, as usual, to our Patreon supporters. We very much appreciate your support.
And we're going to start looking at scheduling in our next genetic memory episode shortly.
Yes, it's definitely about time for that. So that's coming up as well.
Well, I do think that we can be forgiven with...
It has been a little busy for us lately, so yes, I would hope so. But we do have more content in the works for Patreon with our podcast, and we're looking at some other stuff for Patreon as well in terms of rewards for those who support us. So keep an eye out for those. This has been RidgeTop
and Corporal Hicks
signing off.